Captain Jiho stood at the window of his small cargo ship and watched the fields below turn brown. The crops were dying. All of them. Every single plant on the colony world of New Busan was withering away. And nobody knew why. He pressed his hand against the cold glass and sighed. 3 months ago, everything had been green and healthy. The human colonists had been proud of what they built here. They had turned this empty world into a home. Now, that home was dying. "Captain, we got another message from the surface," his co-pilot said. Her voice was quiet and sad. "Colony 7 says their food storage will last 2 more weeks. Maybe 3 if they ration carefully." Jiho closed his eyes. 2 weeks. That was all they had left. The plague that killed the crops had spread too fast. Scientists couldn't stop it. Supply ships from Earth wouldn't arrive for 6 months. By then, everyone on New Busan would be dead. "How many people down there?" Jiho asked, though he already knew the answer. 40,000 colonists across all settlements, mostly families, lots of children. Jiho felt his stomach twist. Children. He had a daughter down there, living with his sister. Little Mina was only 7 years old. She didn't understand why food was getting scarce. She didn't understand that her uncle might not be able to save her. Down on the planet's surface, Ambassador Hana walked through the dying fields with her security team. She was responsible for the colony's diplomatic relations. But right now, there was nothing to negotiate. There were no other species nearby. No trading partners. No allies. Humanity was alone out here. "Ambassador, you should return to the shelter," one of her guards said. "The dust from the dead plants isn't good for breathing." Hana shook her head. "I need to see it for myself. I need to understand how bad it really is." It was worse than she imagined. The fields stretched for miles, and every plant was dead or dying. Brown and gray covered everything. The sky above looked angry and dark, filled with dust clouds from the dried soil. This world was becoming a desert. Her communicator buzzed. Hana lifted it to her ear, expecting more bad news. "Ambassador, this is Control. We have an unknown ship entering orbit." Hana's heart jumped. "Unknown ship? Out here? Is it hostile?" We don't know. They're not responding to our hails." "Wait. Ambassador. They're broadcasting now. It's not a human language. It's something else." Hana ran back to her vehicle. Her hands shook as she grabbed the steering controls. An alien ship. Humanity had met a few alien species before, but they were rare. Most kept to themselves, and none of them had ever come to New Busan. By the time she reached the colony's main control center, Captain Jiho had already landed his cargo ship. He stood in the command room with a dozen other people, all staring at the main screen. On it was an image of the alien vessel. It was beautiful. The ship looked like it was made of white crystal and silver metal. It didn't look like a warship. It looked more like a piece of art floating in space. "They're sending another message," the communications officer said. I think our computers are translating it." A voice came through the speakers. It was strange, with clicking sounds and musical tones. But the translation software worked well enough. "Human colony. We are the Thalen Collective. We detected your distress. We bring assistance." Everyone in the room went silent. Jiho looked at Ambassador Hana. She looked back at him with wide eyes. "Did they say assistance?" someone whispered. The alien ship moved closer to the planet. Smaller ships detached from it and began descending through the atmosphere. Hana grabbed the communications console. "This is Ambassador Hana of the human colony New Busan. We didn't send a distress call. How did you know we needed help?" The alien voice responded immediately. "Your crops emit signals when they die from the plague. We recognized the pattern. We have medicine for your plants. We have food for your people. We are coming to help." Jiho felt tears in his eyes. He wasn't ashamed. Around him, others were crying too. Help. Someone was coming to help them. The Thalen landing ships touched down in the main colony square an hour later. When the doors opened, the humans got their first look at their saviors. The Thalen were tall and thin, with skin that shimmered like oil on water. They had 4 arms and large eyes that seemed to hold infinite kindness. They moved gracefully, carrying containers and equipment. One of them approached Ambassador Hana. He was older than the others, with white markings on his head. "I am Vec," the alien said through a translation device on his chest. "I am a scientist. We bring medicine that will cure your crops. We bring enough food to feed everyone for 6 months. We bring water purification equipment." Hana couldn't speak. She tried, but her throat was tight with emotion. Vec seemed to understand. He made a gesture that looked like a bow. "You don't need to thank us. Civilizations must help each other survive. That is the way of the universe." "But why?" Hana finally managed to say. "Why help us? You don't know us. We have nothing to give you in return." Vec's large eyes looked at her warmly. "You don't need to give us anything. Today, you need help. We can give it. That is enough reason." Over the next 3 days, the Thalen worked alongside the human colonists. They sprayed medicine on the fields, and the plants began to recover. Green shoots pushed through the brown earth. The scientists taught the humans how to prevent the plague from returning. They unloaded food supplies in every settlement. Real food, not just nutritional paste. There were grains and preserved fruits and protein packages. Enough to last until the crops recovered. Captain Jiho watched his daughter Mina eat a real meal for the first time in weeks. She smiled at him with sauce on her face, and he had to wipe his eyes again. On the last day, Vec met with Ambassador Hana privately. Another Thalen was with him, a military commander named Ril, who wore armor despite coming in peace. "We will leave tomorrow," Vec said. "Your colony will survive now. Your crops will grow again." "How can we repay you?" Hana asked. "Name anything. We'll find a way to give it to you." Vec shook his head gently. "We want nothing. But perhaps, if you remember this day, and if someday we need help, you will remember that civilizations must help each other." Hana stood and placed her hand over her heart in a gesture of oath. "We will remember. Humanity will remember. If you ever need us, ever, we will come." Ril, the military commander, made a sound like laughter. "You are a small species, just starting to explore space. You have few ships and little power, but I appreciate the sentiment." Hana looked at him seriously. "You saved 40,000 human lives. If you need us, we will come, no matter what it costs us." The Thalen left the next morning. Their beautiful ship rose into the sky, and the humans gathered to watch it go. Every person in the colony stood together. Looking up, Captain Jiho held his daughter's hand. "Remember this, Mina. Remember the day the Thalen saved us. Will we ever see them again?" Mina asked. "I don't know," Jiho said. "But if we do, we owe them everything." Ambassador Hana returned to her office and made an entry in the colonial charter, the official record of humanity's expansion into space. She wrote, "On this day, the Thalen Collective saved New Busan. We owe them a debt that can never be measured. If they call, we answer. This is our sacred promise." The words were stored in every human database, sent to Earth, and recorded in the permanent archives. Humanity remembered. They always remembered. 27 years had passed since the Thalen saved New Busan. The colony had grown into a thriving world with cities and farms and universities. The children who had been saved, like Mina, were now adults with children of their own. And humanity had not forgotten. Admiral Hyun stood in the command center of Earth's defense fleet, reading reports that made his blood run cold. He was an old military officer, decorated from 3 different conflicts, but nothing in his career had prepared him for this. "Play it again," he ordered. The communications officer nodded and activated the recording. Static filled the room first. Then a voice. It was Vec, the same Thalen scientist who had saved New Busan all those years ago. But now, his voice was filled with terror. This is Vec of the Thalen Collective, broadcasting on all human frequencies. Our homeworld is under attack. The Krovan swarm has entered our system. Our defenses are failing. They will consume our planet within weeks. We apologize for asking, but we have nowhere else to turn. If anyone can hear this, please help us. The recording ended. The room was silent. When did we receive this? Admiral Hyun asked. 4 hours ago. The communications officer replied. It's been broadcasting on repeat. Sir, our sensors confirm it. The Krovan are real. And they're at the Thalen homeworld. Dr. Subin, the chief xenobiologist, stepped forward. She was young for her position, but brilliant. Her hands shook as she held her data pad. Admiral, the Krovan are worse than we thought. They're not just a hostile species. They're a hive mind. Billions of creatures, controlled by a single consciousness. They consume entire planets, strip them of all biological material, and move to the next world. They've destroyed 17 civilizations in the past century. Can they be stopped? Admiral Hyun asked. Every species that tried has failed. The Krovan adapt too quickly. They learn from each battle and become stronger. Taeyang, the intelligence officer, brought up tactical displays on the main screen. He was known for being cautious and calculating. But even he looked disturbed. The Thalen have been fighting for 6 weeks already. They've lost 60% of their fleet. Their planetary shields are failing. Admiral, if we go to help them, we might lose everything we have. The Krovan could follow us back to human space. Admiral Hyun looked at the image of the Thalen homeworld on the screen. It was a beautiful blue and green planet, much like Earth. He thought about New Busan. He thought about 40,000 lives saved. Get me the president, he said quietly, and prepare a fleet mobilization order. Sir? Taeyang looked shocked. We should discuss this with the council first. Consider all options. Admiral Hyun turned to face him. The Thalans saved us when we had nothing to offer them. They asked for nothing in return. Now they need us. There's nothing to discuss. The message went out across all human space within the hour. It was simple and direct. The Thalen need us. All available ships report for duty. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Military vessels from every human world began moving toward the rally point. Battleships, carriers, destroyers, and frigates. But it wasn't just the military. Civilian ships volunteered too. Cargo haulers, mining vessels, passenger liners, even private yachts. Corporations offered their entire fleets. On Mars, the shipyard workers worked triple shifts to retrofit civilian vessels with weapons. Merchant ships that carried grain were being equipped with missile pods. Mining ships that cracked asteroids were being fitted with reinforced hulls for ramming attacks. This is insane, one of the shipyard supervisors said, watching a luxury cruise liner being welded with armor plates. These ships aren't designed for combat. Doesn't matter, his colleague replied. The Thalen saved New Busan. People remember. My cousin lived there. She was 6 years old when the crops died. The Thalen gave her food. Now she's volunteering her cargo ship. She'll probably die. Probably. But she's going anyway. At the rally point near Jupiter. Admiral Hyun watched as the fleet assembled. It was the largest gathering of human vessels in history. 300 military ships. Over 800 civilian vessels. And more were arriving every hour. Dr. Subin approached him on the bridge of his flagship, the Soul's Pride. Admiral, the other alien species are watching us. They're sending messages asking what we're doing. Some of them are warning us not to interfere. What did you tell them? I told them the truth. The Thalen helped us once. We don't forget. Admiral Hyun nodded. Good. A commotion at the entrance to the bridge made everyone turn. Security officers were escorting someone in. It was an old Thalen, moving slowly with the help of a walking device. It was Vec. Admiral Hyun, Vec said through his translator. His voice was weak but urgent. You received our distress call. Relin. Admiral Hyun walked to meet him. He offered his hand in the human gesture of greeting, and Vec gripped it with 2 of his 4 hands. "We received it. We're coming to help." Vec's large eyes filled with tears, real tears that ran down his shimmering skin. I apologize for asking. I know what the Krovan are. I know we're asking you to risk everything. But we had no other choice." "You don't need to apologize," Admiral Hyun said firmly. "You saved New Busan. You saved 40,000 humans. Did you think we would forget?" "Oh, but that was so long ago, and you were just colonists. You owed us nothing." Admiral Hyun smiled. It wasn't a happy smile. It was the smile of someone about to do something dangerous but necessary. "You don't understand humans very well, Vec. We remember kindness. And we repay our debts." Vec looked at the tactical display showing the massive fleet. This is your entire military." "No," Admiral Hyun corrected. "This is about half our military. The rest are guarding human worlds. And look closer. Most of these ships aren't military at all." Vec studied the display in confusion. "These are cargo ships, mining vessels. Why are they here?" "Because when we asked for volunteers, everyone came. The Thaylen saved us. Now everyone wants to return the favor." Taeyang approached with new reports. "Admiral, we're getting messages from the outer colonies. More ships are coming. Also, the Titan Penal Colony is requesting permission to join the fleet." "The Penal Colony?" Subin asked in surprise. "That's where we keep the worst criminals. They say they remember New Busan, too. They're volunteering to pilot the most dangerous missions in exchange for pardons." Admiral Hyun considered for a moment. "Grant it. We need every ship and every person." Vec made a sound of distress. "Admiral, you're mobilizing criminals? This is too much. I didn't mean to cause this. We just needed some help. Not your entire civilization." Admiral Hyun put his hand on Vec's thin shoulder. "Let me tell you something about humans. We don't do anything halfway. You helped us once. You didn't send a small supply ship. You sent everything we needed. Now we're doing the same for you. But the Krovan have never been defeated. Every species that fought them was destroyed. Then we'll be the first to win," Admiral Hyun said simply. The communications officer called out. "Admiral, message coming in from Earth. It's the President." The main screen showed President Nari. She was young for a leader, but she had been elected because people trusted her judgment. She looked tired, but determined. "Admiral Hyun, I've just received your fleet mobilization report. Over 1,000 ships?" "Yes, Madam President, and more are joining." "Good. I'm approving everything. Military authorization, resource allocation, emergency war powers. Whatever you need." "Energy?" "Thank you, Madam President." "Don't thank me, Admiral. Just bring our people home and save the Thaylen." She paused, looking directly at Vec, who stood beside the Admiral. "Tell Vec that humanity remembers. We're coming." Vec bowed deeply, all 4 arms crossed over his chest in the Thaylen gesture of profound respect. The fleet began moving out 3 hours later. It would take 2 weeks to reach the Thaylen homeworld, traveling at maximum speed. During the journey, the ships trained together. Military vessels taught civilian crews basic combat maneuvers. Engineers worked around the clock to maximize weapons efficiency. Dr. Subin gave briefings on the Krovan biology. They were insect-like creatures, each one mindless on its own but connected to a hive consciousness. They attacked in swarms of millions, overwhelming defenses through sheer numbers. "How do we kill something like that?" a civilian captain asked during one briefing. Subin looked at her notes grimly. "We don't know. No one has ever killed enough of them to matter." "Then we'll figure it out," the captain said. "We're humans. We're good at figuring things out." The other captains in the room nodded in agreement. Vec, watching from the back, felt something he had never felt before. Not just hope, but something stronger. He was watching a species that refused to accept the impossible. On the 13th day of the journey, they received an update from the Thaylen homeworld. The planetary shields had fallen. The Krovan were beginning their landing assault. Millions of creatures were descending on the cities. Admiral Hyun called all ship captains to a final briefing. We arrive in 30 hours. The Thalen won't last that long without help. We're going to push the engines past safe limits and arrive in 20 hours instead. Admiral, that could damage half our fleet, Taeyong warned. I know. But the Thalen are dying right now. We didn't come all this way to be too late. Every captain agreed without hesitation. The fleet accelerated beyond safe speeds, burning their engines hot and bright as they raced toward the battle. Vex stood on the bridge and watched the determination on every human face. He thought about the words he had said 27 years ago. Perhaps, if we need help, you will remember. He had never imagined they would remember like this. He had never imagined anyone would risk this much. Admiral, he said quietly, thank you. Whatever happens, thank you. Admiral Hyun looked at him and smiled. Don't thank us yet, Vec. We haven't saved anyone. But we will. Because you saved us once. And humans never forget. The Thalen homeworld appeared on the view screens like a nightmare. The beautiful blue and green planet was covered in black. Millions of Krovan ships swarmed around it like insects around a dying animal. On the surface, entire cities were burning. Captain Minji stood on the bridge of her assault carrier, the Incheon's Fury, and felt her jaw tighten. She had been a cargo pilot before volunteering for military service. Now she commanded one of humanity's newest warships, and she was about to lead it into hell. Status report, she ordered. Her tactical officer, a young man named Do Hyun, who had transferred from Special Forces, read from his display. Krovan fleet, estimated at 40,000 vessels, Thalen defense fleet down to less than 300 ships. They're making their last stand around the orbital stations. And on the surface, millions of Krovan ground forces. They're consuming everything. Buildings, plants, animals. Everything, biological. Minji looked at the horror below and thought about New Busan. She had been a child there when the crops died. She remembered hunger. She remembered fear. And she remembered the Thalen ships arriving like angels. All ships. This is Captain Minji. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to hurt them. We're going to hurt them bad. Across the fleet, over 1,000 human ships received her transmission. Military vessels and civilian ships alike. Every captain, every crew member, every volunteer who had come 20 light-years to fight impossible odds. Admiral Hyun's voice came over the command channel. All ships, weapons free. Show them what happens when you threaten our friends. The human fleet crashed into the Krovan swarm like a hammer, but the humans didn't fight like the Thalen had. They didn't maintain formations. They didn't try to trade fire from a safe distance. They dove straight into the enemy swarm. A cargo hauler, the Morning Star, accelerated to ramming speed and plowed through 3 Krovan bioships before exploding. Its captain had been a merchant trader for 30 years. He died screaming defiance over the open channel. Minji's carrier launched every fighter it had. 60 small ships piloted by volunteers, many of them civilians who had learned to fly in the past 2 weeks. They attacked like angry hornets, targeting the joints of Krovan vessels, finding weak points, and exploiting them ruthlessly. Captain, we're getting a communication from the Thalen Defense Fleet, her communications officer reported. It's Commander Rill. The screen showed the Thalen military commander. He looked exhausted and shocked. Human fleet, what are you doing? Your tactics are suicide. They're called ramming attacks, Minji replied calmly as she maneuvered her carrier between 2 Krovan destroyers, firing at both simultaneously. Very effective. Watch and learn. A mining ship, the Deep Horizon, activated its ore-cracking laser at point-blank range against a Krovan mothership. The laser was designed to cut through asteroids. Against organic tissue, it was devastating. The mothership split open like an overripe fruit. Rill watched in horror and amazement. You're destroying your own ships. We're destroying theirs faster, Admiral Hyun responded. That's all that matters. But the humans were dying. The Krovan adapted quickly. focusing fire on the ramming vessels. Explosions lit up the darkness of space. Ships that had been cargo haulers, passenger liners, and merchant vessels burst apart under sustained fire. On the surface of the Thalen homeworld, Do-hyun led a special forces team on a high-risk mission. They had inserted via drop pods, falling through the atmosphere in armored capsules, while the space battle raged above. Their mission was impossible by conventional standards. They were going to board the Krovan bioships that had landed on the surface and destroy them from the inside. Team 2. Status. Do-hyun said into his helmet communicator. We're inside the landing ship. It's disgusting in here. It was. The interior of the Krovan ships was made of living tissue. The walls pulsed and breathed. The air was thick with spores and humidity. But the humans pushed forward, carrying explosive charges. Plant the charges at the neural clusters, Do-hyun ordered. We need to take out their coordination. The team moved through the organic corridors, fighting past Krovan drones. The insect-like creatures attacked with mandibles and claws. But human weapons cut them down. Rifles, plasma cutters, and even improvised flamethrowers. One of Do-hyun's soldiers was grabbed by a Krovan warrior. The creature was trying to pull him into its mouth. The soldier triggered a grenade on his belt, killing both of them but saving his team. Keep moving, Do-hyun shouted. Make his sacrifice count. They reached the neural cluster, a massive growth of brain tissue that coordinated the ship's functions. Do-hyun personally planted a nuclear charge and set the timer. 30 seconds. Run. The team sprinted back through the corridors. Behind them, Krovan drones pursued. The humans emerged from the bioship just as the charge detonated. The explosion tore through the ship's neural tissue, and the entire vessel collapsed like a puppet with cut strings. Across the planet, other human teams were doing the same thing. Suicide missions. Most of them. But effective. The Krovan ground assault was faltering. In orbit, Woojin sat in the computer core of a captured Krovan communication node. He was humanity's best hacker. And he was doing something that galactic law strictly prohibited. He was unleashing illegal artificial intelligence warfare. This is wrong, one of his team members said. The Galactic Council banned this kind of warfare. If they find out, I don't care, Woojin interrupted, his fingers dancing across holographic keyboards. The Krovan are killing civilians down there. I'm going to stop them. His custom AI programs infiltrated the Krovan communication network. The hive mind relied on constant signals between billions of drones. Woojin's AI attacked those signals, creating chaos and confusion. Krovan ships began firing on each other. Drones on the ground attacked their own swarms. The hive mind was screaming in confusion as its communication network fell apart. It's working, Woojin said with satisfaction. Their coordination is breaking down. Captain Minji's carrier was badly damaged. Half her weapons were offline. Her engines were barely functional. But she refused to retreat. Captain, we should fall back, her engineering officer pleaded. We've lost too much. No, Minji said firmly. We promised to help. Promises aren't negotiable. She aimed her crippled ship at a Krovan command vessel 10 times her size. All remaining crew, get to the escape pods. I'll pilot this final run myself. Captain, you can't. That's an order. Evacuate now. Her crew reluctantly abandoned ship. Minji stayed on the bridge alone. She thought about the Thalen who had saved New Busan. She thought about Vec's kindness. She thought about how that one act of mercy had changed everything. This is for you, she whispered. Accelerating toward the enemy vessel, just before impact, another ship moved beside her. Then another. 3 civilian cargo ships, their crews refusing to abandon their captain. Together, the 4 vessels slammed into the Krovan command ship at full speed. The explosion could be seen from the planet's surface. Commander Rill watched from his damaged flagship, unable to speak. These humans were fighting like nothing he had ever seen. They were reckless, creative, and utterly terrifying. What kind of species does this? He asked aloud. Vec, standing beside him, replied quietly. A species that remembers kindness and repays their debts. The battle raged for 18 hours straight. No breaks, no pauses. Human ships kept coming, kept attacking, kept dying. But the Krovan numbers were dropping. The hive mind was in chaos. Wujin's AI warfare had shattered their coordination. The ground teams had destroyed dozens of bioships. The ramming attacks had eliminated half their orbital fleet. Admiral Hyun's flagship was damaged but still fighting. He watched the tactical display with grim satisfaction. Taeyang. Casualty report. The intelligence officer's voice was heavy. We've lost 417 ships. Approximately 40,000 casualties. 40,000. The same number of people the Thalen had saved on New Busan. Admiral Hyun felt the weight of that number. Every single person had volunteered. They had known the cost. They had come anyway. And the Krovan? Their orbital fleet is down 70%. Ground forces are in full retreat. Admiral. I think we're winning. Winning. Against the Krovan. Against an enemy that had destroyed 17 civilizations. Admiral Hyun opened a channel to all remaining ships. All vessels, press the attack. Don't let them regroup. We finish this now. The human fleet surged forward one more time. This time, the Krovan broke. The hive mind, confused and damaged, ordered a retreat. The remaining bioships began jumping to hyperspace, fleeing the system, but the humans didn't let them go easily. They pursued, destroying every Krovan vessel they could catch before it escaped. On the surface, Do-hyun stood on a rooftop, overlooking a Thalen city. The Krovan were retreating, leaving behind devastation. But the city was still standing. The people were still alive. A Thalen family emerged from a shelter nearby, 2 parents and 3 children. They saw Do-hyun in his armor, covered in blood and ash. The father approached slowly. You came, the Thalen said. You actually came to help us. Do-hyun removed his helmet. He was young, barely 25 years old. Tears ran down his face. You saved us once, he said simply. We don't forget. The Thalen father embraced him. And Do-hyun let himself cry. Around them, other human soldiers were emerging from the battle. Many were wounded. All were exhausted. But they had won. In orbit, Commander Rill sent a message to Admiral Hyun. Admiral. On behalf of the Thalen Collective, I don't have words. You saved us. At terrible cost to yourselves, you saved us. Admiral Hyun looked at the stars where the Krovan had fled. It's not over yet, Commander. Some of them escaped. They'll regroup. Let them regroup. They know now. They know that if they attack the Thalen, humanity will come. Maybe that will be enough to make them stay away. Admiral Hyun wasn't so sure, but he was too tired to argue. He looked at Vec, who stood silently in the corner of the bridge. Vec, you can tell your people they're safe now. Vec moved forward slowly. Admiral, 40,000 humans died today. For us, the same number you saved on New Busan. But those were just colonists. You mobilized your entire civilization. You risked everything. Admiral Hyun smiled tiredly. You still don't understand us, do you? When you saved New Busan, you saved people. And to us, people matter. Every single one. You showed us kindness when we needed it most. We'll never forget that. Never. Vec looked at the tactical display showing the destroyed human ships, each one representing dozens or hundreds of lives lost. Your species is terrifying, Vec said softly. And wonderful. And I hope we never give you reason to regret helping us. You won't. Admiral Hyun said. We're friends now. And humans don't give up on friends. 3 weeks after the battle, the Thalen homeworld was still recovering. Human medical teams worked alongside Thalen doctors in the hospitals. Human engineers helped rebuild destroyed infrastructure. The alliance between the two species was growing stronger every day. But something else was happening too. Something that made Commander Rill nervous. The humans weren't stopping. Rill stood in the command center watching tactical displays. Human fleets were moving through the sector, hunting down the Krovan ships that had escaped. They were tracking them, following them, destroying them wherever they were found. This is the third Krovan outpost they've eliminated this week, Rill said to Vec. They're not defending anymore. They're hunting. Vec looked troubled. I noticed. Admiral Hyun says they're eliminating the threat. But the threat is gone. The Krovan left our system. We're safe now. Try telling that to the humans. Dr. Junho arrived at the Thalen homeworld on a research vessel. He was humanity's leading expert in biological weapons. And he brought with him something terrifying. He had been studying Krovan biology from captured specimens, and he had developed a weapon. It's a virus. He explained to a mixed group of human and Thalen scientists. Specifically designed to attack Krovan neural tissue. It makes their drones cannibalize each other. One of the Thalen scientists made a sound of distress. That's horrible. They were going to eat your entire planet, Junho replied bluntly. This is merciful compared to what they do. But biological weapons are banned by the Galactic Council. Junho smiled coldly. The Galactic Council wasn't here when you needed help. We were. And we're going to make sure the Krovan never threaten anyone again. The virus was deployed on a Krovan colony world, 2 systems away. The results were exactly as Junho predicted. The Krovan drones turned on each other, their hive mind fracturing under the neural attack. Within days, the entire colony was dead. News of this spread quickly through the galaxy. Other alien species began to take notice of what humanity was doing. President Nari herself came to the Thalen homeworld, traveling on a diplomatic vessel. She was young, but she carried herself with absolute authority. When she arrived, the Thalen government held a formal reception to thank humanity for their help. Nari stood before the assembled Thalen leaders and made a speech. The Thalen collective saved one of our colonies when we were weak. You asked for nothing in return. You simply said that civilizations must help each other. We agree, and we're going to make sure you never face this threat again. Rill, standing in the audience, felt a chill. There was something in her tone, something absolute and unyielding. After the speech, he approached her privately. President Nari, we're grateful for everything humanity has done. But, perhaps your forces could return home now? The danger has passed. Nari looked at him with eyes that were kind but firm. Has it? The Krovan still exist. They're still out there. They'll attack again. Maybe not you, but someone else. We can't allow that. But you've already done so much. You've lost so many people. Exactly. We lost 40,000 people saving you. Their sacrifice will mean nothing if the Krovan just rebuild and attack again in 10 years. We're going to finish this properly. Rill felt his stomach sink. What does finish this properly mean? It means we're going to hunt down every Krovan hive, every colony, every ship. We're going to make sure they never threaten anyone again. You're talking about genocide. Nari's expression didn't change. They're not a species in the traditional sense. They're a plague. A consuming swarm that destroys everything it touches. Yes, we're going to eliminate them. Completely. Back on Earth, the mobilization was increasing, not decreasing. Yuna worked as a civilian volunteer coordinator. And she couldn't believe the numbers she was seeing. This doesn't make sense, she said to her assistant. We won the battle. Why are more people volunteering now? Because people heard about the Thalen, her assistant explained. About how they helped us for nothing. About how they're good people who deserve to be saved. Everyone wants to make sure they stay safe. But we're recruiting people for offensive operations, not defense. People don't care. They want to protect the Thalen. If that means hunting Krovan across the galaxy, they'll do it. Yuna looked at the volunteer lists. Retirement colonies were emptying as elderly veterans rejoined the service. Civilian workers were taking military training. Even teenagers were trying to enlist, lying about their age. What have we become? Yuna whispered. Her assistant looked at her strangely. We've become exactly what we always were. Loyal. The Thalen were kind to us. Now we're returning that kindness tenfold. More ships left human space every day. Not just military vessels, but construction ships, supply vessels, medical frigates. Humanity was bringing everything to the Thalen system. We're establishing permanent bases here. Admiral Hyun explained to Rill during a strategy meeting. Your system will become a joint human-Thalian military hub. We'll station 3 fleets here permanently. That's very generous, Rill said carefully. But perhaps unnecessary? We can rebuild our own defenses. Of course you can, but we're going to help. Consider it part of the repayment for New Busan. Admiral, you've already repaid that debt 1,000 times over. Admiral Hyun shook his head. No, we saved you from one attack. But the Krovan still exist. Until they're gone, the debt isn't fully paid. Rill felt helpless. Admiral, please understand. We appreciate everything. But this is becoming concerning. Your species is mobilizing for total war. You're developing biological weapons. You're hunting the Krovan across multiple star systems. When will it end? Admiral Hyun looked at him seriously. When every last Krovan is dead. When there's no possibility they'll ever threaten you or anyone else again. That's when it ends. 4 weeks after the battle, human forces had destroyed 6 Krovan outposts and eliminated over 2 million Krovan drones. The Krovan hive mind, which had been a galactic terror for centuries, was retreating from entire sectors of space. Other alien species watched in growing fear. The Galactic Council called an emergency session. Representatives from dozens of species gathered to discuss the human problem. They're out of control, one alien diplomat said. They're using banned weapons. They're conducting offensive operations across multiple systems. They're committing genocide against the Krovan. The Krovan are a threat to all species, another diplomat argued. Perhaps the humans are doing what should have been done long ago, but who gave them the right? They're a young species, barely established in galactic politics. They're acting like they own the galaxy. Vec attended the session as a Thalian representative. He listened to the debate with growing discomfort. Finally, he spoke. Distinguished members of the council. I was the one who asked humanity for help. I sent the distress call. Everything that's happening is because of me. The chamber went silent. The humans saved my people. They lost 40,000 of their own to do it. They asked for nothing in return, just as we asked for nothing when we saved their colony decades ago. But now they won't stop. They've decided that the Krovan are a threat that must be eliminated completely. And I don't know how to make them stop. Can you make them stop? The council leader asked. Vec thought about President Nari's absolute determination, about Admiral Hyun's unwavering commitment, about the thousands of human volunteers who kept arriving, ready to fight and die to protect the Thalian. No, Vec admitted. I don't think anyone can make them stop. They've decided that we're their friends, and they're going to protect us, no matter what it costs. Even if we beg them to stop, they won't. They'll say they're repaying a debt. This is madness. Perhaps, Vec agreed. But it's also beautiful in a terrifying way. They're loyal to a degree I didn't know was possible. Back at the Thalian homeworld, Commander Rill made one more attempt. He requested a private meeting with President Nari. They met in a garden that had survived the Krovan attack. New flowers were growing among the destroyed ones, symbols of hope and renewal. President Nari, Rill began. Please. We're grateful. More grateful than words can express. But you need to slow down. The Krovan are retreating. Your forces are exhausted. You've lost so many people. Nari walked among the flowers, touching them gently. Do you know what these flowers are called in our language? No. We call them memory blooms. We plant them to remember important things, good things, and bad things. She turned to face him. On New Busan, we planted these flowers after the Thalians saved us. Every colonist planted one. 40,000 flowers, to remember 40,000 saved lives. That's touching, but we're not going to forget, Commander, and we're not going to stop. The Krovan tried to destroy something precious. Something that helped us when we needed it most. We're going to make sure they never threaten anything precious again. Even if we ask you to stop? Nari smiled sadly. Even then, you saved us once. You didn't stop to calculate if it was worth it. You didn't ask if we deserved it. You just helped. Now, we're doing the same. We're helping, and we don't do things halfway. Rill felt despair settling over him. You're going to hunt them until they're extinct. Yes, the galaxy will fear you for this, perhaps, but they'll also know that if they help humanity, we'll move planets to protect them. We're sending a message, Commander. Help us, and we'll be the best ally you could ever ask for. Threaten our friends. She left the sentence unfinished. Rill understood. Threaten humanity's friends, and humanity would destroy you completely. Without mercy. Without hesitation. What have we done? Rill asked quietly. By asking for your help, what have we unleashed on the galaxy? Nari put a hand on his shoulder. You've unleashed loyalty, gratitude, and yes, maybe some human stubbornness, but most importantly, you've made friends with a species that never forgets kindness. That's not a bad thing, Commander. It's just intense. That night, Vec walked through the recovering cities of his homeworld. He saw human soldiers helping Thaylen children, human engineers working 20-hour shifts to rebuild hospitals, human doctors treating Thaylen patients with the same care they'd give their own people. And in orbit, he saw the human fleets preparing for their next hunt. More ships arriving, more weapons being deployed, more determination being demonstrated. He thought about the day, 27 years ago, when he had said, "Perhaps, if we need help, you will remember." He had never imagined they would remember like this. He had created something powerful and terrifying. A bond between species that couldn't be broken. An alliance built on mutual salvation. And now the galaxy would have to live with the consequences of humanity's gratitude. Vec looked up at the stars and whispered, "Forgive me, galaxy. I didn't know they'd take it this far. But I'm also not sorry. Because my people are alive, and that's worth everything." 6 months had passed since the battle for the Thaylen homeworld. In that time, humanity had changed the balance of power in the entire sector. The Krovan swarm was gone, not defeated, not scattered, gone, extinct. Human forces had tracked down every hive, every colony, every ship. Dr. Junho's biological weapons had been deployed on 17 different worlds. Admiral Hyun's fleets had destroyed thousands of Krovan vessels. Special forces teams led by Do Hyun had eliminated the last remaining hive queens. The species that had terrorized the galaxy for centuries no longer existed. Now, the Galactic Council had called a formal session to address what they were calling the human situation. Representatives from every major species gathered at the council station, a massive structure that floated in neutral space. Ambassador Ara represented humanity. She had been chosen specifically because she wasn't a military officer or a politician. She had been a freighter pilot, someone who understood normal life, normal people, and normal problems. She wore a simple uniform and carried herself with quiet confidence. Beside her stood Sok, a military attaché who was there to answer technical questions. He was a decorated officer, but today he was nervous. The entire galaxy was watching. Vec was also present, representing the Thaylen collective. He sat in his designated seat and tried not to show his anxiety. The council chamber was enormous, with seating for hundreds of species. At the center was the council leader, an ancient being from a species called the Elders. They had been part of galactic civilization for thousands of years. "This council is now in session," the Elder announced. "We are here to discuss the actions of humanity following their intervention in the Thaylen crisis." A representative from the Krill Dominion stood first. They were a powerful military species who had always considered themselves the galaxy's protectors. "Humanity has violated galactic law," the Krill said. "They deployed biological weapons, which are banned. They conducted offensive military operations across multiple sovereign systems without permission, and they committed genocide against the Krovan species." Murmurs of agreement spread through the chamber. Ambassador Ara stood calmly. "May I respond?" "Please do," the Elder said. Ara looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of dozens of different species. 6 months ago, the Thaylen collective sent a distress call. Their world was being destroyed. Their people were being consumed. Did any of you answer? Silence. No. Ara continued. None of you did. The Krovan had destroyed 17 civilizations, and none of you stopped them. You watched. You debated. You worried about galactic law and sovereignty. Meanwhile, billions died. The Krill representative interrupted. The Krovan were too dangerous to fight. Any species that tried would be destroyed. We fought them, Ara said simply. And we won. Yes, we lost 40,000 people. Yes. We used weapons you consider illegal. But we saved an entire civilization. We did what all of you should have done centuries ago. A representative from the Pelin Confederation stood. They were a peaceful species. Scholars and philosophers. But Ambassador, you didn't just save the Thalan. You hunted the Krovan to extinction. That's genocide. How can you justify that? Ara's expression hardened. The Krovan weren't a species in any meaningful sense. They were a hive-mind plague. Every world they touched became lifeless. Every species they encountered was consumed. We eliminated a threat to the entire galaxy. You're welcome. The chamber erupted in arguments. Some species agreed with Ara. Others were outraged. The elder called for order. Ambassador Ara, the elder said carefully. The council understands your reasoning, but your actions have made many species nervous. Humanity mobilized with frightening speed. You developed terrible weapons. You showed ruthless efficiency. Some here worry about what humanity might do in the future. Are they worried we'll attack them? Ara asked. Yes. Ara looked around the chamber again. Let me be very clear. Humanity has one simple rule. Help us, and we will move planets to protect you. Become our friend, and we will never abandon you. But if you threaten our friends... She paused for effect. Then what happened to the Krovan will look merciful. Gasps echoed through the chamber. The Krill representative stood angrily. Is that a threat? No, Ara said calmly. It's a promise. And a warning. We're not interested in conquest. We're not interested in power. We're interested in loyalty. The Thalan helped us 27 years ago. They asked for nothing in return. When they needed us, we came with everything we had. That's who we are. Vec stood from his seat, surprising everyone. May I speak? Please, the elder said. Vec moved to the center of the chamber, his forearms trembling slightly. I was the one who asked humanity for help. I was the one who sent the distress call. Everything that happened is because of me. He turned to face the assembled species. 27 years ago, my people found a human colony dying from a crop plague. We could have ignored them. They were a young species, barely exploring space. They had nothing to offer us. But we helped anyway, because we believed civilizations should help each other survive. His voice grew stronger. That one act of kindness created something I never expected. It created a bond. When my people faced extinction, the humans remembered. One single colony we saved, and they sent 1,000 ships to die for us. 40,000 humans gave their lives to repay 40,000 colonists we saved. The chamber was completely silent now. You ask if humanity is dangerous? Vec continued. Yes. They're the most dangerous species I've ever encountered. But their danger is directed at threats, not friends. They don't conquer. They don't enslave. They protect, fiercely, absolutely, without compromise. He looked at Ara. My people are alive because humanity remembered kindness. Every Thalan child alive today exists because humans refuse to forget. If that makes them dangerous, then I pray more species become dangerous in exactly that way. Vec sat down. The chamber remained silent for a long moment. Finally, a representative from a small species called the Mirren stood. They were a timid people, often overlooked in galactic politics. We have been listening to this debate with great interest, the Mirren said. And we would like to announce that the Mirren Collective is formally requesting an alliance with humanity. The chamber erupted again. The Mirren were the first species to actually request an alliance with humans. We are not powerful, the Mirren continued. We are not wealthy. But we would like to be friends with a species that values loyalty and kindness. We hope that is acceptable. And, Ambassador Ara smiled warmly, the Mirren are welcome as our allies. We would be honored. Over the next hour, 3 more species requested formal alliances with humanity. All of them were smaller civilizations, often ignored by the major powers. They saw in humanity something they had never seen before. A powerful species that actually cared about protecting the weak. The Krill representative watched this with growing alarm. This is exactly what we feared. Humanity is forming a block of allies. They're building a power base. We're building friendships, Ara corrected. There's a difference. Ram, the elder raised a hand for silence. This council must make a decision. Humanity has violated several galactic laws, but has also eliminated a major threat and saved countless lives. How do we proceed? Sok, the military attaché, spoke for the first time. With respect, Council, humanity doesn't require your approval. We did what we thought was right. We saved our friends. We eliminated a threat. If that violates your laws, we apologize, but we would do it again. That's not how galactic civilization works, the Krill said angrily. Then maybe it should work differently, Siok replied. The Thalen were dying while you debated. We acted. Results matter more than procedure. The elder considered for a long time. Finally, they spoke. The Council makes the following ruling. Humanity's actions, while technically illegal, are deemed justified under extreme circumstances. No sanctions will be imposed. However, humanity must agree to consult with the Council before deploying biological weapons in the future. Agreed, Era said. As long as the Council agrees to actually help when civilizations call for aid. The elder nodded slowly. A fair compromise. This session is adjourned. As the representatives filed out, many species approached Ambassador Ara. Some wanted to thank her. Some wanted to establish diplomatic relations. Some simply wanted to understand humanity better. A young representative from a species humanity had never met before approached nervously. Ambassador, I have a question. Why did you do it? Why risk so much for the Thalen? Era thought about New Busan. About the stories she had heard of crops dying and hope fading. About Veek arriving with medicine and food. Asking for nothing, because they were kind to us when we needed it most, she said simply. And we never forget kindness. Quote, I really ended. But you're so powerful now. You could demand tribute from them, make them serve you. That's what most powerful species do. Era looked shocked. Why would we do that? They're our friends. The young representative looked confused. I don't understand your species. That's okay, Ara said gently. Just remember this. If you ever help humanity, we'll remember forever. And if you ever need help, we'll come. That's all you need to know about us. Back on the Thalen homeworld, the recovery was nearly complete. The cities were rebuilt, the fields were growing again. And humanity had established a permanent presence. Captain Jiho, now very old, walked through a memorial garden with his adult daughter Mina. The garden honored the 40,000 humans who died defending the Thalen. Was it worth it, Father? Mina asked. 40,000 lives to repay 40,000 saved? Jiho thought carefully. The Thalen didn't just save lives. Daughter. They showed us what the galaxy could be. They showed us that different species could help each other without expecting anything in return. That's worth protecting. They reached a section of the garden where young Thalen students were studying. A teacher was explaining human history to them. This is where the humans landed when they came to save us. The teacher said, pointing to a monument. They came from very far away. Many of them died. But they came because we had helped them once, long ago. A young Thalen student raised their hand. Teacher, are humans always so Intense? The teacher laughed. Yes, child. Humans don't do anything halfway. It's one of their most wonderful and most frightening qualities. I want to be friends with humans, another student said. We are friends, dear one. And that means we're very lucky. Because humans are the best friends anyone could ask for. They're loyal, brave, and they never forget. Jiho smiled at his daughter. You asked if it was worth it. Look at those children. They're alive because we remembered kindness. Yes, it was worth it. That evening, Ambassador Ara met with Vec one final time before returning to Earth. They stood on a balcony overlooking the recovered city. Your people are remarkable, Vec said. And terrifying, Ara laughed. We get that a lot lately. The galaxy will never be the same. You've proven that loyalty and friendship can be as powerful as any weapon. That was always true, Ara said. We just reminded everyone. Vec gestured to the city below, alive with lights and activity. My people want to do something for humanity. Some kind of monument or honor to remember what you did. We don't need monuments, Ara said. Just remember this. Civilizations must help each other survive. Those were your words, Vec. You taught us that. Now we're teaching it to the rest of the galaxy. By force, if necessary, Vec said with a hint of humor. By force if necessary, Ara agreed. But hopefully, after what happened to the Krovan, force won't be necessary. Every species in the galaxy now knows two things. Helping humanity makes us your most loyal ally, and threatening our friends makes us your worst nightmare. You've created a new galactic order. We've created a galaxy where kindness matters, Ara corrected. Where saving lives is more important than following procedure. Where loyalty means something. If that's a new order, then we're proud of it. Vec looked at the stars above. The Council will watch you carefully now. Some species fear you. Let them fear us. As long as they don't hurt our friends, they have nothing to worry about. And if they do hurt your friends? Ara's expression became cold and hard. Then they'll learn exactly why the Krovan begged for mercy. And why we didn't give it to them. Years later, the story of humanity's intervention became legend across the galaxy. It was told in 1,000 languages, on 1,000 worlds. Never underestimate a species that remembers kindness, the story said. And never threaten those they call friends. Young species entering galactic civilization were taught the lesson. Humanity could be the best ally or the worst enemy. And the choice was entirely up to you. The Thaylen and humans remained the closest of allies, setting an example for what cooperation between species could achieve. Together, they helped other civilizations. Always remembering that one act of kindness could change everything. And in a small garden on New Busan, 40,000 memory flowers bloomed eternal. A reminder of the day the Thaylen saved humanity, and of the day humanity repaid the favor. Even the aliens had begged for mercy. But mercy was reserved for friends. For enemies of friendship, there was only extinction.